Welcome to Perspectives El Paso. I'm Professor Leon Blevins, Professor of Government at El Paso Community College. I have an unusual team here today, and we're going to talk about cars. Now, as I was leaving my office building and my classroom building a few minutes ago to come here to the TV studio, a lady saw me dressed up like this and started commenting about things. And she said, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm going to go do a television interview." She said, "What is it going to be about?" I said, "Well, it's going to be about cars." She said, "What kind of cars? Race cars?" I said, "No, it's going to be about Chicano cars." Oh my goodness, what? And here I am. We have a program today that partially the discussion is going to be about cars. And we have a poster that shows some of these cars that have been customized, and some have been on display here in El Paso. As Uncle Sam, I've led the 4th of July parade on the east side many times. In the last several years, we've had a long string of these customized cars, the lowrider cars, at the back of the parade. And I've been as Uncle Sam to many car shows and posed for pictures with some of the people with their cars. So here I have a team with me. We're going to talk about this and some things about Chicano culture or Hispanic culture. Ondrea.
Dr. Ondrea Quiros.
And hi. Dr. Ondrea Quiros.
Hector Gonzalez.
And Hector Gonzalez. Okay, Hector. And we've met before at different events, and you've seen me as Uncle Sam. Have you ever seen me as Uncle Sam?
Yes, you sure have. You've participated with Lincoln Park unveiling the 9/11 mural.
Yes, yes.
Right.
Now, what's your profession? What work are you in?
I'm a firefighter with the city of El Paso.
Okay, so yes, you with that group there that brought the ladders. And
Remember?
yeah.
But I was with the group that actually worked on the murals.
Okay.
So I was kind of involved with both groups at that unveiling.
Okay, Cesar Enostrosa,
correct,
muralist,
right.
And you've worked with Gabriel Gatan, who works with us here at the studio.
Of course, yes.
Oh, well, that's wonderful
I've
to
helped
have
him
you
with any
visiting
of his
with us
murals
today. We just cross paths all the place. And tell us about your work. You're fairly new to the administrative staff here at the community college. Tell us about your work.
I am the Quality Enhancement Plan Director, and we call it QEP, and our QEP is amazing. El Paso Community College is working with the community to use events in the community as part of our course content. We're connecting our courses to our community, and my job is to find those connections and to enhance them, advertise them, celebrate them.
Yeah, over many years I worked with service learning programs and sent students out in the community and had them participating with me in parades and various activities as Uncle Sam or some other characters. And I didn't usually have them write reports and turn them in and keep the records on all of that. But we've had this show since 2007. I have some students doing extra credit reports, watching some of these shows on DVDs, writing reports and explaining what they saw and what they learned about the community. So I have some of these available. Well, tell us some about, you want to start with cars first?
Let's talk about the event first.
The event. You have an event.
We have an
that's
event.
the poster. Tell us about the event.
How about you do it, Hector?
Okay. The event coming up is a movie, a documentary, Everything Comes from the Streets. It's a documentary talking about the lowrider movement, the origins, the history of lowriders, and their impact on their communities. And it kind of dispels some of the stereotypes that are perpetuated about the lowriders and the Mexican-American, Chicano communities, the youth. So we'd like to invite everybody, of course, to come out and join us for the screening of the movie. First time in El Paso. It's an award-winning movie. It's won awards at the Barrio Film Festival in California and other places in southern United States, in southwestern United States. And it's going to take place on March 28th here at the El Paso Community College Administrative Building in the boardroom. And we invite everybody to come out. There'll be a lowrider car exhibition in the parking lot. So you'll be able to firsthand see some of the cars that are here local, and they'll incorporate with what's happening in the movie.
The first car I remember of a child is right there.
Great.
I was born in Brownfield, Texas, south of Lubbock, and my father went into the Navy, and we'd go see him sometimes when it was shore leave during World War II, and that's the kind of car that we went to California in. Very hot, no air conditioning. We'd put water bags on the front to keep the engine from freezing up and so on. And so that's exactly what I remember is that car. Now those became classic cars.
Correct.
I had a cousin in California. My aunt and uncle had moved to Burbank, and he had a car when I was about 11 to 16 that had a rumble seat. And I loved for him to come over and we'd go riding around. And my father lived right on the borderline between Linwood and Southgate, Linwood, and Compton, right on the line between Linwood and Compton. And so these were just traditional cars. But some of the Mexican Americans or Mexicans living in that area began to fix the cars up and take one like my cousin had. The front looked kind of like that, but it had a rumble seat. And they started buying them and fixing them up, painting them with special colors. You want to talk about that?
No, actually, I can't.
You can't.
You know, I am new to this area, and I'm new to low-riding cars, and I learned a lot from this documentary. One of the best parts I like about this documentary is that it offers perspectives from a lot of different viewpoints, from the women of the time, from not just about cars, but how it related to what was going on at the time, and which really fascinated me. But Hector here.
Well, where are you from?
Where
are you from?
South Carolina.
Oh my goodness.
We didn't have lowriders.
No lowriders.
I don't think we have them yet. We're waiting. We're waiting for the lowriders.
Okay.
But yeah, you have a lowrider car, don't you?
Yes, yeah. I have several cars over the years. Have fixed and customized several different cars. Most of the cars took flight in right after the war. So many of the cars are from the 50s and the 60s when
exactly.
Cool.
times were a little bit better and people had a little more money at hand. So that has remained the primary vehicles that are customized by the Mexican-American youth, American-made 50s, 60s models cars. So you'll see a lot of the classics there at the exhibition.
Well, one of my pastimes in South Los Angeles, between about 12 miles to Long Beach, 12 miles to Redondo Beach or something, and about 15 miles to downtown LA. I love to walk and hear the sounds and hear the smells, get the smells of the food being cooked, and sometimes stop and watch some of these people in the body shops working on these cars. That was fascinating to me, and that's how I learned so much as a young kid in those preteen and teenage years, just roaming around in the neighborhoods and doing things in that area and learn from these people. Okay, now talk about the movie. Does it show something about the transition into clothing styles and language styles as well as the cars?
Yeah, the movie goes all the way back to the origins of the lowrider in the late 40s after World War II. It talks about the Chicano movement and how the car clubs were kind of part of the entire Chicano movement. There was some negative stereotypes. I know in LA, you speak about LA, the Zoot Suit riots that took place, and people were being identified by their clothing and the way they talked and things of that nature. So the film touches on that, but it comes back to show the youth and how they organized and became car clubs, community clubs, social clubs, and they included the family, included everybody. They had civic events. They tried to get out the vote, get people together, everybody on the same page. So the movie talks about all those things back in the 40s, 50s, into the early 60s, into the Chicano movement. But then it kind of goes fast forward to today, and it talks about how the lowrider clubs still today organize. They still have a structure, a leader, a director, a secretary, whatnot, and how they still get involved in the civic groups, social events, things. Just this event here is an example of how the lowrider clubs will bring their cars out and try to help promote and pass and get the word out about how things have come about to this day.
Do you do some kind of Christmas toy drives or things like that?
Oh yes, all the car clubs in town are involved with toy drives, the 4th of July parades. We work with children with cancer, all different types of fundraisers to help the community. There is no profit, there is no car show circuit, there is nobody making money. Everything is done for the community, for the people to help them, give them a little pride in what is happening here in town.
Well, many of my relatives went to California during the Great Depression, the Dust Bowl. Many went to the LA area where my father ended up. And then some went up around Fresno and Delano and Tulare and places like that. And so I had experience going back and forth and visiting these relatives and learning more. Now, the Cesar Chavez movement came out of that area up there.
Correct.
And then one year I taught near El Centro, California, a little place called Little Texas, Hopeville, California. So I still have memories of all these things. Doesn't this come close to Cesar Chavez Day?
Well, yeah, it's going to be actually the day before we celebrate Cesar Chavez Day at Lincoln Park. Cesar Chavez Day is actually March the 31st.
Okay.
But we're going to celebrate it on the weekend, right before the actual day. But it also touches on the Chicano movement and the civil rights movement, when the African American community were having their struggles in the 60s, and the Chicano movement was trying to help the Mexican American Chicano communities fight for their rights. So it touches on that, on the creation of Chicano Park. Chicano Park is a nationally recognized place where there's murals placed underneath the freeway columns underneath the Coronado Bridge, much like our Lincoln Park. Actually, that's how I got involved. We'd visit San Diego, we'd visit Chicano Park, participate at a big car show they have out there, and we brought all those ideas back here. We've started our Lincoln Park Conservation Committee to mirror their Chicano Park Steering Committee, and we work on the same types of issues, trying to dispel some of the stereotypes, trying to just make it a little bit more mainstream so that everybody understands.
Okay, let's get Ondrea back in the conversation, especially the sociology of this. I remember being in the LA area and San Diego area and going sometimes down to Tijuana quite frequently and going fishing with my dad off Escondido or whatever and going to the horse races in Tijuana. But that was like one big community down there on the border. San Diego and Tijuana is one big community, similar to El Paso and Juarez, one big community with an artificial governmental barrier between us. Address that.
Well, one of the things I recently learned at the Museum of Archaeology is they have a map that shows migration patterns of the Native Americans, and we think of Native Americans as people in certain areas of our country, but Native Americans are here as well, and we say Native American, Mexican, it kind of all blends together. The ancestry kind of blends together, and there was no line. They move back and forth. They follow the water. Our area includes Juarez, and it's part of our community. We can say that it's separate all we want to, but we have people here who have relatives there. We have students from El Paso Community College that comes from Juarez. Right. They are part of our community, and they should be part of our community. One of the things that this film addresses is the tensions we still have today and how we still need to work on that. We still need to work on finding a way to make space for different community members that aren't always heard, members that aren't always seen. We don't get to see the lowriders except at some of these events, and we'd like to see more of them. We'd like to see that expression. And how can that happen? What's the safe, positive way that we can make that happen? Okay. So this film also talks about those tensions of today as well. Where do we need to go from here? We have this great, vibrant history. What can we do today to celebrate that?
Now, this can be a rather expensive hobby.
Yes, it can.
Out of your own pocketbook, okay.
Yeah.
How do you help some of the young people to get into this that cannot afford what you can afford as a professional firefighter?
A lot of this is handed down from generation to generation. The Mexican American community has always been the working class community, gentlemen that work in body shops, upholstery shops. So one generation helps the next generation, and it just keeps following a family tradition, helping each other out financially with making it possible, the labor, the cost. Quite frankly, if you paid for everything, it would be extremely expensive. But right. Some of the savings come from working with each other and helping each other out, just as a gesture of friendship.
Now, what cars do you have now? Are we going to get to see maybe our co-producer weave some of these in? What cars do you have now?
I currently have a 1958 Chevy Impala, completely original, just like it came off the factory floor, completely restored. One of the more sought out models. But you'll see all types of vehicles, 60s, primarily Chevrolets. I believe the Chevrolet was the working man's car. I know Cadillac, Oldsmobile, Pontiac, those were a little more exclusive back in the 50s and 60s. And so the Mexican American youth got the little bit less expensive cars, the inexpensive vehicles, and that tradition has held to today. For some reason now, we could afford to own and fix any type of car, but just traditionally, our parents, our grandparents, everybody fixed Chevrolets. So the tradition just continues. For some reason, just Chevrolet.
It just dawned on me. I think I was affected by what I saw on the south side of LA. Is that my first car when I graduated from high school here in Texas, I graduated in 1956, was a 1952 Ford. And it was faded blue. It wasn't a very attractive car. Didn't have very good upholstery or anything. And I bought it pretty cheaply. And then I had it customized. And I would go to salvage yards and climb around through the salvage yards and find parts. And I put Oldsmobile parts on there and different front on the grill and all those kind of things. And I was a hit with the young women when I went off to college. Worked in oil fields for a while and then went to college. And I was a hit with that car. They were attracted to the car.
Right.
Well, you're a female. Were you ever attracted by somebody's car?
You know, I can't say that I was, but what I really loved about the film is that there are many women who own these lowrider cars and how they felt so empowered driving these cars.
Sure.
Because of the attention they got with these cars. So it wasn't just the men, I tell you what. The women also had the same kind of powerful feeling with these types of cars and what it said about them to drive them. I don't know, how about you? You have the cars.
It just helps to identify, you know, who you are and the pride of where you come from and how you handle yourself.
Right.
Right.
Well, for a couple of parades, I've ridden on a convertible because my knees weren't doing real well, as Uncle Sam, and I was always looking for an attractive woman with a real nice convertible. And 2 years ago, I asked my wife to help me find a red convertible with a beautiful woman, and it worked out. She mentioned that in a Sunday school class, and so my Sunday school class saw this woman pull in and enlisted her to be my driver during the 4th of July parade.
Wow.
And she was in love with her car. Her father had helped her buy, gave her the car as a graduation present from college, I believe it was.
Right.
And so, yes, she was on a power trip, having a beautiful Camry convertible.
Wow.
Okay, tell me about some of the other people you work with in your organization.
Well, the gentlemen that are coming to help us showcase the movie all the way from San Diego, California, Dr. Alberto Lopez Pulido. He's the chairperson of the Ethnic Studies at the University of San Diego.
Oh, wow.
He's the producer of the movie. A gentleman that's part of the Chicano Park Steering Committee, and also a member of the Amigos Car Club, a lowrider car club in San Diego, Mr. Rigo Reyes. So they're coming down to be a part of this event. They are the producer, and Mr. Reyes is a large part of the movie. So they'll be here joining us and giving us some of their wisdom. They're the ones that'll really have more of the information that people will be interested in. You know, the day of the event, we'll have a question and answer session after the screening, where people can get a little bit more information.
Yes, I forgot to mention that, the panel. Immediately following the documentary, we're going to have a panel discussion. We'll have these two gentlemen, we'll have Hector. We hope to have Commissioner Leon, who said he would also join the discussion. And we also hope to have a few other community members to talk about how those issues reflect and relate to the issues in El Paso.
Okay.
So it'll be a really interesting discussion.
Practical question.
Yep.
When I had my car and I had it customized, I had spinner hubcaps put on it.
Right.
First one in my town, if I remember, but small town there south of Lubbock. And it's hard to take care of it. People keep stealing things, or they want to come along and scratch it because you got something better than it. How do you and your car club members protect your cars?
Actually, there is not much of that worry. A lot of the cars, everybody knows everybody to begin with. That's the first thing. All the events are very family oriented. We sometimes travel out of town to different cities. We'll all stay at a motel, a hotel, and these very expensive vehicles, trailers, everything will sit out in the parking lot, and there's just absolutely no trouble. Everybody kind of keeps an eye on each other's stuff, and we really have no issues with anything like that.
Wow, that is wonderful then.
Right.
I have some students in the last couple of years that have told me that their relatives in Juarez cannot have real nice cars out in the open because they will be attacked and their cars taken from them. So they leave their nicer cars in garages and they get older clunker cars to drive around, because some of them teaching at the university there and in medical fields or something. And so that was one of my fears. How do you protect these cars from people that would take advantage of them?
Right. Unfortunately, what's happening in Juarez, in Tijuana, different parts of Mexico, are just part of the breakdown of the whole system financially over there. And those issues don't arise here in the U.S., thankfully.
Amen.
And it's just part of the struggle that the people in Mexico are going through.
Okay. You're from South Carolina, a very different culture and so on. How do you find this border culture? I've taught for years and years on the border in California, on the border here, and the border in New Mexico. I've taught along here all these years. How do you find it?
When I first came here, I was really struck by the sense of family. And, we talk about family and family values all across our country, no doubt. But in South Carolina, family is very big as well. However, I had students who, if their father went out of work, she'd put all the family expenses on her credit card. And not only would she put the expenses on her credit card, but she wouldn't expect her father to help pay her back. She would be responsible for it on her own. Or a family member would get pregnant and need help with the baby. They would, of course, say, well, I'm going to take care of the baby. I'm going to stop doing any extra activities or anything else. I'm going to take care of the baby. This sense of family, this willingness to do anything for each other is something that I don't see in South Carolina. Yes, again, we have a very great sense of family, but I never saw the kind of sacrifice that I see here. And it's a cultural thing that I really respect. I hope that we can, our country really relies on how we build from each other's cultures. And I'm hoping we bring that aspect into our culture as a whole, all across. I think, and we didn't have many, the Hispanics in South Carolina, very few. Literally one on my entire island. And that was the Spanish teacher. So I didn't have a lot of experience. I married a Latino. He's from LA. He and my ex-husband was in the military, so that's how we came here. But his family, very loving. We went all through Latin America, and I was so struck by not only that sense of family and sacrifice for each other, but complete strangers in restaurants or whatever. If our children were crying, would come and try and comfort them. And so there are definitely differences in the culture that I'm really struck by, and I really hope that spreads.
Have you become conversational with Spanish language?
Not quite yet. I'm working on it.
Practicing it constantly. Sometimes someone will ask me here, now close to my retirement, they'll say, out of all the years you've taught on the border, any things you wish you had done that you didn't? I said, yes, I wish I'd become conversational in Spanish and learn to play the guitar so I could sing romantic songs with the guitar. Right. But it never happened. I have to do it by playing a boombox or something instead. But we've had a good time with this. Well, before our time runs out, any other words that you want to get in about some of these activities of the car clubs and the shows that are being done from your perspective with quality enhancement for El Paso?
Well, first of all, I'd like to encourage all our students to come out and to bring their families. This is definitely a family event. It's in a safe environment. I know there are a lot of, whenever I talk about having, hey, we're going to have this lowrider car event, the expressions back usually are very stereotypical of what, you're doing what, or is it going to be safe? Very safe. It is a way to dispel some of these stereotypes about it. It is an expression of art. It is an expression of self. We hope to have other people there that will talk about how they connect. So it is an educational experience, as well as really, it's going to be fun. It's going to be some food. There's free food. The lowrider show in the parking lot of A building. So I really encourage them to come out.
I have a granddaughter named Taya Rose. She's a senior in Eastwood High School. About 12, 13 years ago. So my wife was with her in South El Paso. We regularly would go to South El Paso and shop along Santa Fe Street and so on. And they stopped at a McDonald's, and they're sitting there, and suddenly Taya looks up at Shanna, my wife, and says, "Grandma, are we still in America?" And she said, "Yes, we're still in America. It's just that everybody along here speaks Spanish." You've grown up with this culture.
Yeah, born and raised here in El Paso. Wouldn't trade it for anything. Yeah, it's, again, things like that are where the children need to be educated, as to the boundaries, Mexico and the United States, imaginary boundaries. They're like the doctor stated, those are just man-made, those are just governmental boundaries. The community is all one, so it wouldn't matter if she was in the U.S. or in Mexico. She's still in the same place and the same
same culture,
same culture. Everything's exactly the same. So it wouldn't matter if she actually were in Mexico.
Well, I've had some students that grew up in the Coronado area or up in even Eastwood area that never went to South El Paso. Mm-hmm. When I talk about going shopping in South El Paso on a regular basis, it's South El Paso, right, because they had that stereotype of South El Paso was a different world.
Right. And we still have that today. We have many students who are from the east side who've never been to the west side and vice versa. That's why we have our quality enhancement plan to address just this issue. Oh, okay. That it's so important to see our community as a whole. And it doesn't need to be an either or, like Spanish or English, or this either or confound is again man-made as well. Right. When you look at it holistically, that we're all part of this community. we can bring in, that whole acceptance, a whole intricate thing can bring in, and that's so important as well for our community, and it'll make it stronger.
You must work with Olga Chavez with the diversity program.
I do. Sometimes I get the opportunity to. She has a wonderful program. I love the things that she brought up. So the History Month and the Black American History Month, they were amazing.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to those other events as well, and I'm hoping this will kind of fit right in.
Yeah, well, it sounds like it does. I've had her on this show, and I've worked with her on a variety of programs. We have a couple of minutes left. Hector, last words?
Well, again, just to invite everybody out to the screening of the movie here at the Community College on the 28th. We'll also have an event the following day, Cesar Chavez Day at Lincoln Park. We'll be unveiling the Dolores Huerta mural created by Gabriel Gaitan. So we'll be cutting the ribbon on the new mural underneath the spaghetti bowl.
Wow.
And the gentlemen that are here with us for the screening of the movie will be at Lincoln Park, and they'll have some of their videos available for purchase. And
Last thing they might want to know, will there be food concessions there?
yes, at the Lincoln Park there will be food concessions. At the movie screening, the community college is providing snacks and food for the general public.
Very
our
important
students.
question, very important
Yeah.
question.
Yes, it is.
Actually, the food will be provided by El Paso Community College students who are in our culinary arts department.
I'm glad I asked that question.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Goodness gracious, this has been a great interview. I thought we'd just go about cars and car parts, all right?
Yeah.
Well, thanks for watching another interesting program on Perspectives El Paso. I'm Leon Blevins.
Cuando estaba yo joven, yo tenía un buen cuerpo, decían que estaba bonita, pero nunca en mi vida había agarrado tanta atención con manejar ese carro. Para mí es como algo bien especial porque voy y me hace sentir un poder, que toda la gente, ay, bonito, nice car, hey. Y yo, yeah, that's right, and it's me, yeah, and it's mine.